right, what's going on, everybody? We are ready to rock and roll, where we're going to teach you how to take back control of your retirement accounts, but not just taking back control of your retirement accounts. We're going to teach you some tax strategies, some ways that you don't have to pay your hidden partner, Uncle Sam, those pesky taxes. So we're going to hit all those topics: how to make your money go to work for you, how to do anything. And you know who the teacher is going to be? This guy right here, Lazy Cash. And the reason his name's Lazy Cash is because a lot of us have cash sitting around that's lazy, that we're not in control of it. And that has to stop. So with opening this thing up, I'm going to go over just a little bit of housekeeping here. So here's your all-star cast here. You got Mr. Snaggy in the house. What's up, Steven?
Hey, how's everybody doing? Glad to be here.
You got the star of the show, Mr. Greg Herlean, down at the bottom left there.
Hello, hello.
And Brandy Dean, the one that will be answering all of your questions. So with that being said, I'm just going to tell you just a quick story about Mr. Greg Herlean. So I didn't know who Greg was, and I show up at a summit, okay, a real estate summit out in Las Vegas. And it was an awesome event, about 500 people. And there was speaker after speaker. And me and Larissa were sitting right in the front row, because that's just what we did. And we're watching and just taking it all in. It was like drinking from a fire hose. How many of you can relate to that? You go to a summit and there's just so much information, you literally don't even know where to start. You're almost paralysis by analysis. And I remember,
whoa,
Herlean,
that was cool.
What? Oh, with him, yeah, he's bored. You know how many times he's heard this?
Yeah.
He's heard this story. So he's just going to fall asleep now. He's like, oh, I thought we were talking about something brand new. Well, Kitty, we are going to. Greg Herlean and Mike Baird get on stage. And I remember these two guys, like they were rock stars, and the moderator really introed them good, but they started talking about money. No other speaker spoke about money. And I'll never forget, Greg starts talking about real estate. Starts talking about real estate. And he says, the ultimate in real estate is being the bank. I had no idea what that meant, but I promise you, I do now. And I promise you, you will by the end of this, because you all want to be the bank. And I don't care if that means that specially designed whole life. I don't care if that means being the bank from your existing 401k, if you're still an active participant working for the company, having your 401k. But specifically tonight, we're going to speak about self-directed IRAs and how you can use those to build your retirement, to build a lot of other things, including your business and everything else. And we're going to do it in a very unique way. So I want to turn the show over to Mr. Greg Herlean and have him kind of kick us off for tonight. Show is yours.
Thanks for having me, Chris. And I will never forget you in the front row with your beautiful wife. It's hard because I always bring up a subject. I'm typically in between like celebrities. Like you got it was Christina and Tarek and the flipping Boston guys. And then it was just Greg and Dave. And so it's hard to follow some of these celebrities on TV, but it was nice because you guys were so engaged. This was like 10, 11 years ago, I feel like now. But before I get started, I got to send my condolences to Mr. Snaggy himself. I mean, the last couple of days have been probably rough. And I just want to make sure you're doing okay over there in Florida with your Panthers. Everything okay? Everything all right now?
I thought I was going to throw something through my television last night. So we'll leave it at that. But we're coming back to Florida now. The odds aren't with us, but we're going to give it our best on Thursday night. So we'll see.
Oh, man. Anyways, it's definitely fun on this side of it for sure. So I am expecting to get a little bit beat up when we go out to Florida. So anyways, I had to say something to him because he and I were texting. He actually didn't text me too much last night's game. But anyways, it's good to be here. I have prepared a few things different. I think things actually that Chris and Steven have not seen. So I want to share that with you. Chris, if you're good with it, I was just going to kind of jump into a couple new things I have, and I wanted to share for those of you that might have heard me before, maybe not. I've got a few things that are just a reminder and or a refresher, and then some new things I'm sharing with you. I want to share with you that people are doing today and how they're using their retirement accounts today. Because I know like every year, every quarter, things are changing, like how people are investing. And I would say one thing that I have the advantage of seeing as an owner of a trust company is I get to see how literally thousands of people are investing their retirement funds outside of the stock market. And so, I mean, that is what we specialize in. We help people use their retirement funds and invest in alternative assets. When I say alternative, I also like to say secured. Most people invest in secured assets, which I think is unique and different, right? Because we've talked about this before, but the stock market, sure, you have a stock, but it's not like a rock. For me, when I like to invest more in rocks, things that are the foundational, that I know if things do plummet, I still have a piece of property, land, etc. And so we're going to talk about what people are doing and how it's working for them. So this is me. This is my family. I actually told my better half, if she comes in, we just had a baby last week. Told her to come in because it's always nice to see. I just love just a little baby, literally 10 days old. So you might meet little Summer. Real quick, I want to talk about some numbers, just in particular, some numbers that I think are important before we dive into self-directing and how you can use your retirement account. I tweaked these numbers a little bit from last time, Chris and Steven, and this is a little bit probably even more realistic for individuals. But if you're looking at this screen right now, let's just give some hypotheticals about the importance of compounding interest. Basically, earning money in a retirement account rather than outside of a retirement account. Because many of us are investing. A lot of you might be investing in real estate, whatever it may be, even the stock market, et cetera, and you're paying taxes on gains. By doing your alternative investing, you can avoid a lot of those things. So I want to jump into this one simple concept that we've all heard about, but I think the numbers tell the story. So real quick, 35-year-old has $100,000, you can put away $3,000 a month and makes 8% on his money. They'll have a little over $6 million in the retirement account. Okay, not bad. It's good. If you take that same amount at 12%, 8 to 12, you'd have $14 million. So let me just tell you real quick the example that I'm sharing here with you. If Chris and I both were to invest in something and we each earned 12%, but he did it outside of his retirement account, I did it inside my retirement account. At the end, when I go to retire, I would have $14 million in my account, and Chris would have 6. Why? Because he'd have to pay taxes on his gains every single year. We could be investing in the same exact thing. So the importance of compounding interest, making money and profits on your profits year after year, is powerful, and you can do that inside your retirement account, and you can do that investing things you want. Wanted to get to a few things. This is how most people are investing, hypothetically, right? You've all met with your financial advisors, and they're like, hey, look, hypothetically, over 30 years, if you put away $1,000 a month, I could just ask you, how is that going for you? I mean, this is, this guy probably picks better stocks than myself. I know whenever I pick a specific stock or even mutual funds, even some of the indexes, I can't explain it. And I don't know exactly what's happening. And I have no control, right? If someone wakes up at the end of the day and picks and a CEO makes a bad decision or is dating the wrong person, all of a sudden your retirement account can be shrinking. What is a self-directed IRA? So first I want to say self-directed is not a legal term. It's a descriptive term on describing the type of retirement account. I want to share this because a lot of people are like, oh, I want to get that self-directed account, and I want to move my traditional out of a traditional into self-directed. That's not the proper way of actually speaking about it. For those of you here that want to know about a self-directed IRA and how that works, I'm going to jump into that here. For those that have a retirement account, if you have a traditional, a Roth, an old 401k, old, previous employer, a SEP, a simple IRA, you can transfer that over into a self-directed IRA, meaning it comes to our company. Let's say that Chris or Steven, I'll pick on Steven, has $100,000 at Fidelity. He can move all or a portion of it over and transfer it tax-free into a custodial account with us. And we hold it in trust on your behalf until you tell us where you want to invest it. And that's what we do. That's our company. Our company focuses on helping people get their money transferred over so they can then tell us where to invest those funds. And I'm going to share with you some of the places that I invest in my funds. But you can have a traditional, self-directed traditional Roth or 401k. So who qualifies? Anyone that's got a retirement account or an old 401k. Now, I want to focus on the old or prior. There's probably 50% of you, or maybe more or less 10% of that number, 40 to 6% of you have an old 401k with a previous employer that's just laying there. You're not exactly sure how it's doing, or you are sure how it's doing. It's doing terrible. It's going up and down, and you don't know exactly how what it's invested in. You can qualify, and you can most likely move that retirement account into a self-directed account and start investing it in assets that you might understand. What kind of assets? Here's a short list of some of the things that our investors invest in. So it can be a promissory note, can be a real estate deal, could be an Airbnb, precious metals, cryptocurrency. You could joint venture these different deals. You can give it to somebody and have them wholesale for you. It's really limitless. There's a few exceptions, the things you can't do. Like, for example, you cannot invest in your own personal property, in arts or collectibles. You can't invest in a vacation home and use it every once in a while. You got to keep that separate. But for the most part, almost anything is fair game. And so this is created for a passive approach, investing in alternative assets. Let me give you an example of something that actually, before the example, this is one more. This is Chris's middle name, I think, on here, right? Chris, make it happen. You like that, Chris? That slide's for you. Mr. Moneybags himself. The example I wanted to give is an individual, just how I started in the beginning of this presentation about compounding interest. An individual that has $45,000 and they can invest two different ways. One, with inside of their Roth self-directed IRA account with us, or out of their savings account, straight into investments. If you look at the differences there, same interest rate, same amount of years, one's paying taxes, one's not. It's a $600,000 difference. 600,000. This is investing in the same thing, just doing it in a smarter way. I mean, this alone basically is a $600,000 savings by doing something that the IRS has approved over 40 years ago. In the 70s, self-directed came out and got approved. In the 70s. So why don't you know about it? So why don't most people know about self-directing? Why? Mostly because lack of education, people know about it. And number two, financial advisors typically don't want you doing it. And by the way, this is absolutely not for everybody. People who need a financial advisor, who are not engaged and active in their investing, they probably should be staying with their financial advisor. People that are more active in their real estate investing or active in whatever they're investing in, businesses, etc., and they want to take more of an active approach, self-directing is for them. But this is the difference between you investing in a self-directed account, Roth, or outside of a retirement account. If you have an old 401k, you could be doing this inside of your self-directed account. So near and dear to me, I might have shown this slide actually the first time I met Chris, because I used to show this slide. I haven't showed it in a long time, but this was the first real estate deal that I did. So this was my first deal in Las Vegas. And the best example I can give and why this is near and dear to my heart is I was in my early 20s and I was able to teach somebody that had a retirement account that they could be my lender, my investor. So basically I partnered up with his IRA. He lent me $60,000 for this small little condo. And in return, I got 25%, 25% of the deal, and he got 75% of the deal. And I flipped this property. Yes, and this is a real picture of the kitchen. I flipped the property, and at the end of the day, in about 90 to 120 days, he got back his money plus $12,000, and I got back a $4,000 to $5,000 profit. That's what I made in 90 to 120 days using somebody's IRA. And so that's how this all began for me. Literally, what would that be? 21 years ago is when I learned about this. And that's how it began in the beginning, when I was having to borrow retirement funds because I had no money. Now I'm in a place where I'm doing more of the lending. We'll talk about that as well. This is also a blast from the past. People asked me about this property, and they wondered how difficult it was to get this out of the house. I think actually more importantly is you should be asking how much money I made on turning this in for the recycling. Another rental property that I turned with IRA money. I just can't not show her off because she's like the cutest little thing. Here's little Summer.
Hi, Summer.
There's little Summer. She's like, I don't know if I like this. Anyways, this is where I've been the last 10 days with this beautiful little girl. So
Chris, your little one might have a little competition with Bryce. I don't know.
This is just a funny one. This one I actually did not do, but my partner Baird did this one. It's funny. A lot of people also flip properties, and this is a good example. I remember this is one that I flipped using my IRA money. Bought this property, flipped it, and what was great about this too is not only did I flip it, it was made money on it, but I also remember how this picture on the left was in a community with all nice houses. And this kind of was like the drug house, how we changed the whole community by flipping this property. And that was kind of one of the fun things I did early on in my career when I was flipping properties. Is just, it's just crazy how you can change a community by flipping a property that might have had issues. And so I don't want to get too deep in the real estate side, but it is a passion of mine. And I love that I was able to do almost every one of these properties with either someone else's IRA or my IRA. And I created a team to do that. The other thing, and I do a lot of right now, and that I'd say probably a third of all of our self-directed IRA investors do, is they lend. Similar to Private Money Club, in fact, exactly like Private Money Club. I know that some of you probably are aware of it, maybe you aren't. We'll talk about this a little bit towards the end. There's many opportunities for lending. And so that is probably the best way and my favorite way of using my self-directed IRA. Here's a good example where there's a loan that's needed on a piece of property, and there's appraisal and an interest rate and a term. And I'm not the guy that's flipping it. I'm the lender. So we have lots of self-directed IRA clients that are in a position where they are lending on single family homes, on commercial properties, all things that are more tangible and more understandable. So there's a great example of a lending scenario. And I know there's lots of them. I've seen them. Chris, you've shown me your portal as well on Private Money Club, where there's opportunities where people can lend. You tell me, Chris. I think I've seen a lot of stuff between $50,000 and $150,000. There's probably stuff smaller than that. Definitely stuff bigger than that as well. But there's just so many opportunities where you can be lending, using your retirement money, making 8 to 12%, 15%. I know even more on there, but I don't like to get caught up in interest rates so much, because the difference is the example I keep giving with Chris and I is, if Chris continues in this example to invest outside of his IRA, by the way, he invests in his IRA, but in this example, he's not. If he continues to invest outside of his IRA, he's got to make 18, 19% to keep up with my 12 or 13%. So I don't have to take the same risks when I'm using these vehicles and these things that the IRS has approved. Wanted to share another example. Chris asked me today to kind of go over some examples, so I wanted to share a few of them. So I wanted to share my first deal, which I've shared with you, some flips that I've done. I'm sharing personal examples, but I can give you countless examples of our thousands of investors have been doing as well. Here's another investor that's at Horizon Trust Company who has invested in a wholesaling business. Now it's a passive wholesaling business, but they put $6,000 in it, $6,000 in their Roth IRA. And over an 8-month period, I think it's April to October, they did 3 or 4 flips, wholesale flips. They turned their $6,000 into $86,000. This is not like this is real. This is an individual who invested in a wholesale business and turned his 6 to 86. That doesn't mean everyone's going to do that. In fact, what if he only did the first 1 or 2? He turned his $6,000 into 16 or 21,000. All you've got to do is just a little bit of investing inside of a self-directed IRA to avoid paying those taxes.
Yeah, this is good. And then I think what Steven's got is a couple of things he wants to go over with just some alternative ways people can use their self-directed IRAs. And then also, I know you have a slide where you show, and it's probably coming up, some of the stuff that you can do with a self-directed IRA. I've been chatting with a couple of folks in the chat right now, and they're looking at, different annuity options. And, a lot of times, people don't understand that an annuity can be bought with a self-directed IRA, and some of the advantages of being able to diversify further by doing it that way instead of just, directly buying the annuity and being stuck in that. So I just want to cover a couple of those things just to make sure that a few individuals get the most out of this training, since their time is valuable and they did end up showing. So yeah, let's just roll through, and then we'll just kind of answer some questions and go into some neat stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, one thing, because I took this break here, I wanted to say that my staff wanted me to bring up is infinite banking concept. For many of you that are involved in it or understand it, this is not that. How does it work with that? I should have a slide for this, by the way, and I don't, but I want to bring it up real quick, because a lot of clients that we talk to that work both with your company, Chris, and our company are like, oh yeah, I'm doing the infinite banking thing. And that is different. But I do both those things. I know Chris and Stephen do as well, but let me tell you how that kind of works in a simple way. Creating your own bank using insurance policy would be step one. If you don't have a retirement account already, you create your infinite banking, your insurance policy. You can then borrow money from the cash value and fund or open up and contribute to a self-directed Roth account. and then let it grow. And everything that you do inside of that grows tax-free. And then you just pay off or pay back your insurance policy, the money that you borrowed against it. And so it's a simple thing, two different things, but this is the approach for investing and not paying taxes. I would say most of you, the best qualified people that we work with are people that, for the most part, already have a retirement account, an old 401k or an IRA. They're looking to transfer over, stop the bleeding of the stock market, and start investing in these alternative assets. This is near and dear to my heart as far as luck goes. I just, for me, I don't believe really in luck, just like Lucille Herbal talks about. I just feel like when there's opportunity and those that take advantage of it, and there's those that don't, there's a big difference. Chris and I both can see the same thing and have the same opportunities, or find ourselves putting ourselves, and Stephen and Brandy putting ourselves in positions at masterminds, at education, and doing different things to take advantage of these great opportunities. If you're not putting yourself out there, if you're not looking at different opportunities to grow your business, your bank, then you're just lacking on these different opportunities. So a couple other things real quick is you can also open up a solo K. You can, for those of you that are looking to start from scratch and you're looking to open up a retirement account or 401k associated to your business, we can help you with that as well. The positive thing about that is you're able to contribute a lot more money every year into a solo K. Typically, you can go all the way up to even $60,000 or $65,000. You can fund a business with your retirement account. If Stephen here has a new business opportunity or an LLC, et cetera, that I want to invest in, I can invest in that business using my retirement account as well. I just share this example of someone who had $50,000 at 14% and contribute to some money over 10 years and 20 years. This is what the numbers could be at a low interest rate. I'm sorry, I didn't say low, but at a decent interest rate. We're not going crazy. The other thing that I talked about on my first deal is access to money. I think this is always a powerful slide. There's over $11 trillion, over 91 million IRAs in the United States. You probably are one of those individuals. And these people could be potentially your banker, could be your lender in your deal, or you are one of those 91 million. So basically almost a third of America has a retirement account, and they are getting the typical stock market rates. Only 4% to 5% are self-directing. So a couple last rules here I'm going to share with you real quick is, committing to education. It is a lifelong pursuit. I'm always doing it. I'm learning from these guys, the gentleman here. And self-directing is one of those things. Educate yourself on what is available out there. Many of you have probably been investing for decades and maybe just barely have heard about this subject just maybe a year ago or just now for the first time. Education is critical. Continue to grow. Also, we do not gamble. We invest. And that's what we do. I feel like gambling is a bit like the stock market for me personally. I'm not saying that's for everybody, but the gambling is when I go to the roulette table or craps table, whatever it is, that's gambling. I feel like when I do that in the stock market, it feels about the same. I put money in there. I'm hoping red hits. That's it. That's not how I use my self-directed IRA. I use my self-directed investing in tangible assets that I understand. Relationships will always be more important than the real estate itself. I can't say this more. All of my relationships have made me who I am today. Someone introduced me to self-directing. Someone introduced me to Chris Naugle. Someone introduced me to Stephen Nagy, who I've got a great relationship into. One thing that I think of is I remember someone coming up to me saying, man, I can't have success in real estate. I've made 1,000 offers and I haven't got one yet. Well, it's not about making all the offers. It's really about who you know, learning from them, and then taking action. And that's kind of our goal. And that's kind of how this team works. It's about relationships and leveraging the relationships in a good way and learning from each other, opportunities in a way that they can avoid paying taxes, compounding your interest, and getting big gains. And that's kind of what we've been doing and seeing lots of our clients do. This is my close and information here. So, and then we'll go to the questions and stuff. So I don't know if you, real quick, if you do take this down or take a picture of this, this is a link that goes, that follows with Chris Naugle and Be Your Own Bank. if you text SDIRA now to that phone number. So again, just take a picture, we'll move on. I think there's also a link as well that Brandy's will put in the chat as well. Well, for those of you that are saying, hey, look, I want to learn more. I've got more questions, way more questions to how to use my IRA or someone else's IRA. We'll do a free strategy session with you and talk to you and teach you kind of how it works, and get you the next step. Many of you might be listening to this and saying, I think I have an account that works, but I'm not sure. Do a call with us. Send us an email. Let us know. Say you listen to Stephen and Chris and Greg on this webinar, and just ask your questions, whatever they may be. Obviously, we're going to go through some question and answers now, but our goal is to help you understand your retirement account and help you, if you are interested in taking action in the investments that you choose, that you want, rather than what someone else is choosing on your money. And so I think that's it. I've gotten better at PowerPoints, Chris. You knew when you met me, I wouldn't even put up a slide, and you're like, dude, you got to have a little bit more organization and not just kind of talk about your stories. And so now I feel like I had too many slides. I apologize if it was too much, but we'll stop with the slides. We'll go with the questions. Anyways, that's what I got. Let's go with any questions you guys have.
Oh, the questions have been phenomenal. I've been trying to keep up with them. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of them. They got to go over into the Q&A, but we got some great ones. Before we do that, if you want to just stop sharing the slides, Stephen, one thing I'd like to show is a lot of people, when you talk about self-directed IRAs, folks, it's no different than a regular IRA. When you talk about, self-directed 401ks or solo Ks, they're no different from an IRS standpoint. It's just the custodian allows you to do something different. So I think a lot of people want to make what you do, Greg, something totally different. They're like, oh, I've never heard of this. Sure you have. It's identical. There's no difference. It's just giving you control to invest or do what you want with your funds. Now, we'll hit some of these questions about like the different things you can do, but I also want to be clear is, a lot of people that we work with, and, just on my side, Greg, I don't know your number, but on our side, we have over 8,000 clients in the US alone, and then some in Canada. But in the US, we have the opportunity, because of the amount of clients we have, to work with a lot of people in a lot of different scenarios. I mean, we work with developers that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, all the way down to, the person who's just getting started. Maybe they got 10 grand, in an IRA, and they're ready to rock and roll and do that. Now, it doesn't matter where you're at on that spectrum. There's a place here. And I want to also preface that I feel a lot of people are being let off of a cliff right now. And they're being let off of a cliff right now because we've been in the longest bull run in history. And I urge every one of you to watch Ray Dalio's videos. Okay. He's got 2 of them right now. How the economic machine works and the changing world order. You need to watch them, because you might be looking at me saying, oh, who's this guy with a trucker style hat and, I don't wear suits anymore, folks. I've evolved past that. And I think Greg, sometimes when he's on stage, he does, but it's just 16 years as an advisor, I had to wear suits. I just don't anymore. And I think a lot of people want to be like, what do you know about it? A lot more than you would think. And if you follow the things that your advisors, and if you're taking advice from a CPA, please take advice from the CPA regarding your taxes, not investment advice. CPAs are not advisors, and advisors are not CPAs in most cases. And if they are playing double duty, I would run the opposite direction, just being crystal clear. The other thing too, that most of the folks that we work with, the only thing before they meet us and learn about the other side is they know only about traditional investments, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, annuities, and so on. Traditional investments, things that I sold for 16 years as an advisor. They don't know that they can take their IRA funds, their old 401k, and that they can become the bank by being a lender. Now, I'm not saying that's everybody's cup of tea, but I do want to show you one example that Stephen will bring up in a second. We call it the Bank of C&M Jones, but this is a couple that had no knowledge of lending, had no knowledge of being the bank, but what it did for them was just worthy of talking about. You ever feel like you don't have control of your real estate business or your money? That's right. The big banks and the institutions, they're in control, right? I know you've felt that before. Private Money Club puts you back in the driver's seat. As members often tell us, it's a total game changer. Join the community of like-minded lenders and borrowers by going to privatemoneyclub.com and sign up. So the nice thing about lending is it's exactly what a bank does. Don't make it anything more. When you go to your traditional bank, you borrow for a car, you borrow for a house. It's the exact same thing. From your self-directed IRA, you can lend. I've been doing this for, gosh, I don't even know how long. You said it was about 14 years. I've been doing it that long. Lending from my self-directed IRA. Larissa, my wife's been doing the same thing. Both of our portfolios have more than doubled. Okay. And the beauty about not the doubling, because everybody right now with the longest bull run in history can say, oh, my portfolio is more than doubled. What are you talking about? My line is literally like a straight line up. There's no bumps in it. There's no ups and downs. It just goes up. And I think a lot of people right now are seeking that kind of preservation, that kind of stability. You know, I was chatting with a nice gentleman in the chat here. And one of the things I think a lot of people are looking to do right now is preserve and protect what they've built. 12-year bull run. Like, you better start preserving and protecting. And the way I do that is when I lend money, I lend it in a secured position always. You know, Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights said, if you're not first, you're last. I just copied that. I said, yeah, you're right. If you're not first, you're last. I want to be first like the bank. I want to be first like Bank of America. I want to be first like Ricky Bobby wanted to be first. And being first position means that I've got a tangible asset that I can lean on if something goes wrong with that loan. I haven't had any happen, but I'm sure in my time I will. But I've always got a tangible asset securing that. I'm not saying that's your cup of tea, folks, but what is your cup of tea? What is your risk tolerance? And what are your needs and goals? Are you just looking to preserve and protect? Are you looking to just generate an income stream guaranteed? Perfect. There's options for all of these. But a lot of times we pigeonhole ourselves into just one option, thinking that that's the only thing that does that. And it is not. Ask any incredibly wealthy individual. Listen, like between Greg and myself, Greg, I don't even know how many billionaires we work with and that we know, but we know a lot of billionaires and multi-millionaires. And I'll tell you, the way they invest their money, the way they handle their money is very different than the way most folks use and handle their money. It's a complete opposite. It's like a 180-degree difference. And that's what we're trying to explain to all of you folks, is that not saying what you're doing is wrong, but just understand there's a whole nother world of what you can be doing with your money. And that other world might just completely change your view on how your money works for you forever once you start doing it.
You bring up a great point about the wealthy, like the rules that have been applied that the IRS approved back in the 70s. Who do you think has been using those rules for the last 40 years? It's not advertised, and the mom and pops aren't doing this for the most part, but the people that are taking advantage of these rules are the rich. The rich are getting richer and wealthier because they're using rules that have been out there. You've heard about these politicians. They're crushing it. Peter Thiel, we've talked about that example before, where he put 5,000 in to start PayPal, and then he took out, they made a couple $100 million tax-free using a self-directed IRA. I mean, the rich keep getting richer because they're using rules that they've created. The politicians have created these rules for them to get richer. You too can use them, and we're telling you about them today.
You know, when we talk about the bank of C&M Jones, why it's so cool is because their whole thing was they just wanted to create consistent, predictable income. That's important for people in life, especially as you get older in life. Like, you don't want to work your whole life, be planning on being able to retire a certain way, and then, you know, whatever happens with the economy or politicians or, you know, just in the world with COVID, you know, something like that happening again, like, and then all of a sudden, like, your whole entire plan completely changes because you're all in the, you're diversified, but you're diversified 100% in the stock market, which when the stock market goes down, all the ships go down with it. You know, I was watching something fascinating, which, by the way, if you guys want to kind of get in real deep on some of this market and economy and what's going on right now, Chris and I do a show at 9:30 Eastern every Wednesday. So tomorrow morning, 9:30 Eastern, called What the F Happened. So if you go to YouTube at the Chris Naugle and subscribe, we'll live stream it right to the YouTube channel. But join us tomorrow. I have some really, really cool stuff. But one of it was showing the S&P 500, and it's showing how 7 companies have made like 90% of the gains over the last year. And the other 493 companies in there have all lost money. And these 7 companies are holding things up. And it's fascinating to watch how that happens. But when those start to go, and they're all tech companies, you know, what's going to happen with that? And so when we look at things like even like the broader stock market and the Dow Jones, I mean, this is just the last 10 years right now. Everybody knows markets go in cycles. So just looking at this, like, let's pretend you don't know anything about the technicals, market cycles, history. what does common sense tell you might happen coming up? Okay. Because if we think about 2020 going in right before COVID, there was already talk about pullbacks and the economy coming down and the markets coming down. And then COVID hit and crashed everything. So what did the Fed do? And the Treasury, the Fed pumped more money than has ever been printed in the history of the world into the economy, and the Treasury was happy to spend it and pump it into the people's pockets and bank accounts. And so that kind of propped everything up on this house of cards. And the Federal Reserve is now stuck with raging inflation and trying to raise rates to keep up with that. And they say the housing numbers and unemployment numbers and all this is kind of just all being revised and adjusted several months later just to create this illusion that everything's going to happen. But you can only create that illusion for so long. You can only have a house of cards for so long. So at some point, just common sense tells us this is probably not going to turn out well. So, I mean, right there is one reason to maybe, okay, let's maybe pull some of that money out right now. Like you say, buy low, sell high, and don't lose money. So if we're at the very tippy top right now, does it make sense to maybe move some of that money into other vehicles? So let me show you what Charles and Mary Jones did using this strategy. Now, this was a while back now, but this is exactly what every one of you can do right now with the market that we're in. So here we go. So this was Charles and Mary Jones. This is a real case study from several years back. But so they were farmers out in Idaho, actually, and they had $350,000 in their retirement accounts. They knew that they wanted to retire in 10 years. So they had a 10-year plan, and they knew they needed to do something a little bit different because $350,000 wasn't going to allow them to retire. They don't want to take on the risk of continuing to play the markets, and they were not experienced with investing. They did not want to spend the time to be active investors. And they just wanted some place to put their money where it could grow for them and get them to where they wanted to be. So we taught them how to take control of that money through self-directing. And like Greg said, it's no cost as far as like taxes or penalties or anything like that to move from wherever you are now over to a self-directed account at Horizon. You're just moving from one custodian, one broker, so to say, to another. And now you have control of your money. So now you can invest in whatever you want. So this is what Charles and Mary Jones is. We taught them how to do what's called private money lending. Private money lending, we'll talk about it in a second, but it's essentially being the bank because you're doing exactly what a bank does. You're lending money to a small company, typically an LLC, an individual that has an LLC. So somebody like a house flipper, or somebody that buys rental properties, a real estate investor, you're using a mortgage or a trust deed, a promissory note. You're setting it up exactly like the mortgage all of you have on your homes, the exact same way, where you can foreclose on the property. You can take that property over something if the terms are not obliged by. So they literally became the bank and took control of their money. So by doing so, what they did is they started doing private money loans. Now, at the time, they were lending to friends and family, so they didn't want to take advantage of anybody. So they were lending a 9% annual rate, which in today's market, just to give you an example, we lend today nothing under really 12%. Occasionally, I'll look at something for 10%, but usually 12 to 15% is what we're getting annually on these exact same private money loans secured by real estate. That's worth a lot more. So they decided to lend just to friends and family at 9% because that was going to get them to their goal, and it was going to allow their friends and family to, make a little bit extra profits as well. So they took their $350,000 principal and they started doing these private money loans with it. They also committed to continue to contribute to their IRA. So $6,500 a piece for a total of $13,000 a year into those self-directed retirement accounts. So they did this over 10 years. So if you do the math on all this, it adds up to just over $1 million is what that $350,000 grew to be over those 10 years. Now they're at retirement age, 10 years, they have $1 million sitting there. So what do? How many of you think that they start withdrawing that $1 million and spending that money? How many of you guys think that? Because they got $1 million, so why not start spending it, right? Well, how about this? What they realized over those 10 years, that private money lending doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of energy, and it's relatively very easy to do, especially once you start doing it a few times. So they said, listen, we can live our retirement and still do some private money loans. And so that's exactly what they did. So they took their $1 million retirement and they kept doing 9% loans to their friends and family. Now, if you do the math on $1 million at 9% each year, that's $92,000 a year. Now, the way private money lending typically works is the borrower is going to pay you a monthly interest-only payment on whatever you lend to them. So if we do the math on that, lending at $1 million at 9% is a little under $7,700 a month. So now they know they have $7,700 a month coming in every single month, consistent, predictable, and they never touch that $1 million principal. That remains there. So now they know they have $7,700 a month coming in from that source of their retirement income, and they can count on it. They can bank on it. And I was a financial advisor in the past. And when I would meet with clients that were all in the stock market, because that's what we do as financial advisors, that's where the money's made. And when I was a financial advisor, my clients didn't have that security feeling. They didn't have that feeling of knowing that they were going to get that money coming in every month. Yeah, we would talk about things like annuities and stuff like that, which Chris, maybe you want to hit on that. But even with that, like, you're not generating this kind of return without touching the principal, without all the huge fees and everything that are involved there. So it just shows like a better way. And so when we look at, why people do this kind of thing and why it's so important is because the Social Security Administration tells us and Chris, you can vouch for this as a financial advisor. I saw this every day. The Social Security Administration tells us if you take 100 people at retirement age, only 5 of those 100 will be financially secure. That's a problem. So 95% of people get to retirement, work their asses off their entire lives, and they can't feel financially secure. I'm not even saying financially successful, just financially secure. Why? Because they follow these traditional ways of investing. And that's why we love not only talking about self-directed investing, but private money lending, real estate investing, infinite banking concept, all these things. Why? Because this is what the banks do. This is what the wealthy do. This is how you become the 5%. And so when we start looking at like, where is our money and how can we be smarter with it? All we're trying to do is avoid what we call the 3 wealth killers: inflation, volatility, and taxes. So inflation, everybody knows right now, is going crazy. How do you avoid inflation? By keeping your money in motion and moving and making more money for you all the time. How do you avoid volatility? Getting out of these ups and down cycles of the stock market. How do you get rid of taxes? Putting your money in things like an IRA, where if you have a Roth IRA, it's all tax-free growth. A traditional IRA, it's tax-deferred growth, and you're getting a nice tax benefit today by putting it into a traditional. So you're eliminating all of these different wealth killers that just erode our wealth. And the more dollars we can keep, the more dollars we can put in motion, and the more dollars we're going to have later on. So we look at what do the wealthy do. The wealthy put their non-retirement dollars, their non-qualified money, in checking accounts and savings accounts and money market accounts. The wealthy, people like Greg, Chris, myself, we put our money in a specially designed and engineered whole life policies known as the infinite banking concept. Why? Because it's guaranteed, it's safe. We have access to the money so we can keep that money moving even while it's compounding, tax-free, guaranteed for the rest of our lives. So what would you rather take advantage of? Have your money sit in a checking account or in a guaranteed, tax-free place where it's going to compound and grow for the rest of your life? When it comes to retirement dollars, do you want to ride that roller coaster of the markets, or do you want that consistent, predictable growth on your money like Charles and Mary Jones? And so that's just a couple little examples I wanted to share of kind of why we do what we do and just how important it is, especially right now in this market, because we're at highs right now, guys, and we're going to see this thing pull back. And I just don't want you to ride that. You don't have to ride it down. There's no reason to ride it down. Now, once it gets down there a little bit, sure, maybe you start buying back in. But guess what? With the self-directed IRA, can you only invest in real estate? Can you only invest in businesses? No, you can still invest in the stock market. Why not? So it gives you it gives you the best of all the worlds. So it just makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, I love that example, the Bank of C&M Jones. And, it's funny, back many years ago when we showed that, that was like, the example of a real client. But now it's kind of like, I can't even count how many of those case studies we have. I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, we have people that have literally, well, on here, I mean, I'm talking to a bunch of people on here that have literally, left their W-2 jobs, which was a scary thing. And now what they're doing is everything you're learning here. But I think you can all agree that, in an hour that we've had, or maybe a little more, a little less with questions, it's impossible for us to get everything to you that you want to learn. So the thing I always tell people is join us. Listen, like, we're not here trying to sell you some coaching package, some mentorship package. Everything we do, we give away for free. My YouTube channel, I spend $22,000 a month just being transparent, just producing content for all of you. It's there for you. Every day I put a new video up. It's a massive undertaking that we do, but why? Because we give our best stuff away for you so that you can learn. Because the ultimate in life is to give. And if you give, you always get. I mean, it's that's just a universal law. So I give a lot. We give a lot. Greg's putting content up all the time. I'm putting content up. Me and Steven are doing webinars. It seems like every day of the week now, but tomorrow we've got wealth webinar. We got the WTF in the morning, which is a fun show at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Wealth webinars at 1 o'clock. If you want to join, it's just go to chrisnaugle.com and join. What I'm trying to explain is sometimes when you take advice about your money, you got to trace back the dollars. Follow the dollar. I've heard it from a lot of people, and not just on this webinar, but from a lot of people. They're like, oh, this person said I should do this. This person said I should do that. Follow the dollar. Why did they recommend that product? Could it be because it's the highest commission they can get? Could it be because it pays them a big amount? Listen, folks, from me to all of you, from Steven to all of you, and from Greg to all of you, we're not here trying to sell you a product, sell you a coaching program. We're literally trying to save you from financial devastation. And I hate to say it that way, but if some of you don't listen and get off this roller coaster while we're really close to the top, the next leg, the next cycle that you ride is not going to be a pretty one. And some of you will ride that because you won't leap, you won't take any action. But most of you on here will take action. Most of you will do something that will protect and preserve your wealth. And that's honestly, that's a win for me. It really is. But in that, because we only do have an hour and I want to get to these questions, Brandy has been sharing her email the entire time. If this is even remotely interesting to in any capacity, book a call with her. It's not a sales call, just talk to her, just ask her questions. Tell her your situation, because listen, the best way we can all help all of you is by understanding your needs and goals. If we don't know what your needs and goals are, if you just tell us, oh, I want to retire, that doesn't mean anything. Like, when do you want to retire? How much money do you want to retire on? What does retirement look like? What's your perfect day look like? Don't just tell me you want to retire. Everybody wants to retire. You know what happens when people retire? The same thing my family members are going through right now. They get old, they get sick, and they die. That's the truth, folks. Retirement is a fictitious world, like name that we've been taught to believe in, that someday we're going to stop working and we're going to ride off and sail off into the sunset. Some of you will, but for most of you, you're going to want to create, you're going to want to have purpose. So do the right things so that you can control that. Don't just think someday you're going to stop working for your W-2 and that's the perfect day that you're going to live. That isn't the perfect day. Look at your friends that have retired, that are sitting around wondering what their purpose is. That is not a perfect day. You are in control of your life, folks. So control it. Let's get to some of these questions, man. I am so freaking excited. And we got Jimmy Davison on here. I mean, that dude's a rock star, folks. Look him up, but he's got so much knowledge and he's around our campfire all the time. So let's get to it. Greg, you ready to do these? We'll do rapid fire because we got a lot of them.
Let's do it.
All right. Alex said, do you have any historical data on the percentage rates that you refer to? So we've talked about a bunch of percentages, but he's basically just asking, do we have any historical data?
Well, I've got historical data based upon before I owned a trust company for 20 years, 15 years actually, not 20. Was in the hard money lending business and continue to do hard money lending and private lending. So all I can tell you is historically, when you're lending in real estate, you're going to make between 10 and 12%, sometimes more, sometimes a little less, but that has not changed in decades. So
Sorry.
What did you just read?
Chris G's comment. It is so good. Stop. I'm retired. And I've been feeling a little off the last couple of days. High five to you, Chris, man. That's hilarious. Sorry about that, funny. Sometimes we get.
I don't have market historicals. I mean, you can Google those, what the market does, but I can tell you lending historicals. There's always been a place for 10 to 12% money. Always. When the market's great in real estate, when it's bad in real estate, there's always a marketplace for 10 to 12%. So. Yeah.
And another place, just go to privatemoneyclub.com. You can look at some of the rates on there right now that'll show you where we're at from a private lending standpoint. And they're 12. I mean, there's a 20% deal on. Actually, Greg, I think Carson's got a deal up on there that's 20%. I mean, there's the rates are high now, so your private lending rates are going to be higher. So Harvey said, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? 0.034 squared, I think. And Marie, how are you? She's asking, could we please put the name of the books here that Chris mentioned? I think those are the ones. How the Economic Machine Works, The Changing World Order would be another good one. Principles is another good one. Lots of great books, but I would start with those two. And you don't even need to read the book. The books are long. Just watch how the economic machine works. And then from there, watch the video that is right here, Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order. If you watch those two videos and you don't just get distracted, he literally will predict for you exactly where we're headed. And you might not like it, but it's the truth. And there's no one smarter in the financial world than Ray Dalio. Look him up. He's the founder of the largest hedge fund in the world. He's no longer the CEO of the company. So now he's able to live out the second part, which is where he's warning all of us what's coming and how to protect ourselves. It's a brilliant story and a brilliant couple lessons you can learn from that. Anonymous said, what is the link for What the F Happened? That's easy. You just, any of my channels, Facebook, you can follow me on Facebook at the Chris Naugle, Money School on Facebook, or YouTube, which is where most people chime in to WTF. And that would just be at the Chris Naugle. You just subscribe to my channel, and then you'll be notified if you click the little alerts button. How would you explain the whole life policy to family that is resilient and keeps warning you off expensive insurance where you can lose all your money? Oh, wow. Anonymous, I would say don't even bother trying to talk to your family about it. I have not in all my years, and I would say I'm probably one of the top in the industry teaching this. I don't do business with my family because of exactly what you're saying. Like, sometimes you got to understand that you can only help those that want help. And the ones you're talking to right there, keep warning you off the expensive insurance where you can lose all your money. First off, it is physically impossible to lose money in a specially designed whole life, period. They're guaranteed. So maybe start with that. Go to your family and just say, are you stupid? These are 100% contractually guaranteed. You physically cannot lose money. And then just walk past. Don't just get the last word in and then see what happens. Since my 401k and 457 is current, and with the unpredictable market and from watching your webinars, I'm considering pulling a max loan out of it and current, and a current estimated rate of 8.75 up to 130 payments. My repayment would be made, but hasn't been confirmed with my work and will be pre-tax deduction for my paycheck. A lot of info here. Is this a good idea? Take the money, use it to invest while having the pre-tax deduction from my paycheck will reduce my annual income in turn. And essentially, it's a lot. I have something to say, but Greg, do you want to make a comment on that? On taking loans from current 401ks?
We have a lot of people that do it. And so you absolutely can. It really, as long as you have a plan, it sounds, I mean, this message sounds like you have a very specific plan and you know what you're going to do with it. So the arbitrage probably works on the interest you're going to pay. It's kind of like the whole infinite banking concept as well. You borrow the money, you invest it, lend it, whatever, you'll probably end up beating it. And so, yeah, you can do that. You can borrow the money, and it's a loan, you pay it back, but you can use it in any investment you like.
And I think the best way to use 401k loans is for any of you that have an active 401k like David did, and you have debts like credit card debts. Take the loan from the 401k, pay off the credit card debts, take the amount you were paying the credit card, roll that back into the repayment on the 401k. What you've done is essentially become your own bank, but you've gotten rid of high interest credit cards. So if your credit card was 20%, you pay it off and you pay the same payment back to your 401k, you're effectively making 20%. Most of you, would really be happy with a 20% return, but you're not just making 20%. You're making 20% plus the interest that the 401k is charging you, because the interest they charge, I think yours was 875, goes back to your 401k. So in that example, you'd be effectively making 28.75% by just paying the amount you're given to Visa, Amex, Discover, whatever your card is, back to your 401k. That's one of the best uses for 401k loans.
Yeah, a lot of people use it for that, paying off expensive debt. Yeah.
Wow, they're up to 8.75% right now, huh?
Some of them are, I guess, yeah. But
you don't have to do that, by the way, in a self-directed account. If you have a self-directed 401k, it doesn't have to be as high, but yeah.
Exactly. Is there a way to work together if we're active real estate operators seeking private money? Yeah, of course. Mike, so let's work together. You're active real estate operators and you need money. Well, guess what? All of us here have money. Guess what? All 220 people that are left here have. A bunch of them have money because they probably have IRAs and 401ks. So if they listen to what we've been teaching this whole time and move their money to a self-directed IRA, add 220 times, I don't know, what do you think? Let's do an average of $100,000 account. What do you get? A lot of money. And you know where all that money is? right in this beautiful community, a dating site for money called privatemoneyclub.com. So you want to work together? Go to privatemoneyclub.com, become a member, and that's where we're all at. Hundreds of millions of dollars in Private Money Club right now and climbing by the day. So if you need more than hundreds of millions, probably not going to be a good fit. But if that fits your criteria, well, that's where you go. So Brandy, thank you so much. You were crushing it on this question. Folks, do you all realize 61 answered questions? Put your hands together for Brandy.
Hey,
Crushing.
Brandy. All right, Brandy. She's crushing it. Thanks, Brandy.
There's that slide.
you go.
You're asking
So
about.
there you go, John. Here's the slide with $1,026,085. Just so you know, you're probably just trying to do the math. So yeah, there you go. And if you have any questions, you can just put them over in the chat. We're happy to kind of just answer them as we wrap this webinar up. And remember, as we're doing this, folks, sorry, Stephen, as we're getting to the end of this, just if you have questions and you want to learn more about this, book a call with Brandy. It's very easy. Brandy will put her contact info right in the chat right now, just so that we don't miss anyone's questions. So there it is, 9% interest. And folks, just by the record, I mean, 9% was back then. Today, I mean, on a very average basis, we're getting 12%. So, you know, what did the Bank of C&M Jones do today? They're making probably 12%. So it's cool to get a raise.
What's that, about 120,000 a year, right?
Yeah, not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Is there a membership fee to join Private Money Club? If you want to be a premier member and actually lend and borrow on Private Money Club, yes. But you can join Private Money Club as a free member, and you can use the public forum in there just to get to know people, browse. So either way, it can be free, or if you really want to get down and get your money to work or borrow money, you definitely have to become a member. Yes. What else we got here? Kevin said, does Horizon Trust have education on details document? Oh man. Yeah, actually, Greg, can you hit that? Because a lot of people are like, oh, if I go to this self-directed IRA stuff, like I'm not going to know what to do. I'm going to need to be educated. I'm going to need people that can help me do this private lending thing. That's a great question.
Yeah, so look, we have a library of all kinds of videos and information. When it comes to documentation, we can definitely lead you the right direction. We're not attorneys, so we won't create the documentation, but I would say it is very easy to find it. I would say if you just Google a document, in fact, Chat GPT, right? I mean, you can find the document and create a simple promissory note and a loan very easily. And then we're going to review it. We guys got to make sure that it's filled out correctly and the titling's correct. So we'll help you with the documentation once you get it over to us and it's filled out correctly. But if you're not sure how to do it, we'll help you as well. Like, hey, I got this document, have some questions, don't know how to actually finish it up. We'll help you with that. That's probably, in fact, I saw one of the first questions before I even started talking. Someone said, why Horizon? This is what I do. I got into this business because I understand it, and we like to hold our clients' hands through the process. There's no other company like ours that seamlessly will help you through the process. And if we fail somewhere, we know it, we want to hear about it, and we fix it right away. And then the second reason why Horizon Trust, we're the fastest. We are the absolute fastest. What does that mean? Typically, a lot of trust companies, to get your money over from one place to another, it could take anywhere from 3 to 6 or 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks. The money that you would make on that in interest somewhere is 1 or 2%. So just the speed itself makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. And folks, listen, I've been using Horizon Trust, me and my wife, for a while. And I will tell you, the service that we get, and I'm personally speaking about this, with our deals and the help I get with the paperwork. I'm not a good paperwork person. I'm just not. I'm too busy. And just the support, the service, the attention to detail. Like I know, and I've heard this, I can't solidify this, but I've heard with other custodians, they don't verify wire information. And I heard once of actually somebody in our network losing money because a wire wasn't verified. The bank information on the other side wasn't verified. So the custodian just sent the wire, and then all of a sudden, like, the money went to a fraudulent account. Like, you don't want that to happen. So Horizon actually verifies the wires. Now, some people are like, oh, that's a pain in the butt. It's for your protection, though.
We do, by the way, on a side note, we do double verification, and people are freaking, it's crazy today with all the scammers where we have to get 2 forms of verification before we're sending wires out. One example that came up a few times is we'll send out a verification, and then we call And if they don't answer, they don't answer, but then we'll get a call back. And sometimes we get a call back and it's the scammer that calls us back. So we can't even accept callbacks unless it's us calling them or us texting them. Anyways, it's crazy, all the scamming. Whole different story.
Horizon does have the two offices, New Mexico, Las Vegas. Now, there was a question earlier, Greg, that that said, and I just wanted to point it out in this last minute here. I know we're a bit over, but it was about using their self-directed IRA for their own business. And they had made reference to self-dealing on that. Do you want to just hit self-dealing for a second? Because we're very cautious with that.
Yeah. So there are rules associated when you start investing or lending to your own business. There's definitely some different rules. And so it is probably, it deserves a one-on-one call for sure from my staff to talk to you about what you're trying to accomplish. If it is a business that you are active in, you cannot pay yourself a salary or compensation. And so that becomes a conflict. If it's more of a passive investment where it's your business, you lend to it, but you have an executive team and or a manager that's managing the business, then you don't really have prohibited transaction. So it's got to be more passive. Now, if you don't want to be passive, there's still a way of doing it, but that deserves a phone call for us to kind of talk about to find out what you're trying to accomplish. But I would say for the most part, keeping it separate. If it's a business you're investing in and it's more passive where you're not getting a salary and compensation from, it most likely will apply. I invest in businesses all the time, very passively, using a retirement account where my IRA, my Roth IRA is a partner in investment in a business.
Love it. Well, folks, with that being said, I know we're a little bit after the hour. We appreciate all of you sticking around with us, and we really appreciate your time you spend with us. And, a big thank you to each one of you who gave us your time, your energy, and your effort to learn something new. And whether or not you actually take action on this or not, at least there's another alternative and another option for you to do a lot of things that you cannot do in the traditional financial world. And the reason you can't is, and I'm going to end with this, a financial advisor like I was for 16 years, they know about self-directed IRAs, but their company, their brokerage or the RIA, and sometimes an RIA can, but the brokerages don't allow them to sell self-directed IRAs for one reason, folks. They can't get paid on it. So again, I said this earlier, follow the dollar. Why is your advisor not talking to you about a self-directed IRA? It's a good possibility. It's because they can't get paid on it. Therefore, they're not allowed to talk about it. Think about that. Sleep on that tonight. Dream about that tonight. And tomorrow when you wake up, give Brandy a call and start talking about what self-directing will look like for you and your family. With that being said, Greg, Brandy, Stephen, thank you so very much for your time tonight. Greg, try to get some sleep and give that beautiful little baby a big old hug from me and Larissa. And with all of you, thanks and have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We're putting up tons of them, but I think if you like this one, you'll probably like that video as well. Not only that, I've got a book that I created, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, where we actually show you what the wealthy do in the game they play with money. I want you to have that for free. And if you want to know about all my new videos coming up, click that alert button. Actually, smash that alert button, and you'll be notified every time we put a new video. So we'll see you on the next episode.